Hey all, Cecilia Regina here. Welcome to my first ever TikTok Roundup. That's where I talk about things I found on TikTok, things that I discussed on TikTok, but I couldn't say all that I wanted to say, all in one place. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button for more of my content. Today we begin with a podcast, The Root of All Evil. But I don't mind podcasts because they expose the hypocrisy of the demographics. Like this viral clip, it features one of the creators of the Boondocks, and it exposes how the demographics like to make a joke out of disrespecting black women, but when something much less is done to them, they get in their feelings.
For some reason, the R. Kelly episode, it came up, and my ex-wife, she hated that episode. She always felt like, that's not funny. It's not funny. He's peeing on a girl. It's just, she got like really, really mad. It was kind of like protesting at the table. She wasn't going to eat anything. And I was like, this is really uncomfortable because we're trying to celebrate, right? And then Usher walks in, and everything just changed. Her whole attitude changed. Most of the remainder of the dinner, like she's turned around at Usher, making Google eyes and stuff, and trying to get his attention. He's waving, licking lips and stuff. I'm looking crazy at the table because everyone sees it. I look back and she's at the nigga's table.
Oh.
So we all like walk back over there like, oh, what is this? And then she's like, she starts introducing everybody. She's like, so Usher, this is Aaron. This is his fiance. This is my Carl. This is Carl. I'm Carl now. Okay.
So this is one of the guys who worked on the Boondocks, and he's talking about being out to dinner with Aaron Magruder, the creator of the series, and some other people, including their significant others, celebrating the pickup of season 2. The episode he's referring to that his ex-wife, his wife at the time, did not like, that she was protesting against, lampooned the idea of R. Kelly's, I hate to say, Smex tape. It was child abuse material is what it was. I'm sure all of you know and remember years ago when he was first arrested for that crime, he was caught on tape abusing a child, a 13-year-old girl, and eventually, did what on her. I've always hated that episode. I actually do not like the series at all, except for the pause episode. That was hilarious. But see, that's punching up. That's why it was funny. But the rest of the series punched down, particularly on black women, and Aaron Magruder is a huge, huge misogynist. Back to this particular episode. This episode lampoons the idea of R. Kelly abusing this child. And one of the ways this is done is they never refer to him having sexual contact with the child. It's always, he urinated on her. If I didn't want him to urinate me, I would have moved out of the way. And they act like this 13-year-old can consent. It's the adultification of children. It really just pisses me off. But these men are very careful to remove the context that this is a child, children cannot consent, and they really focus on this whole golden shower aspect, make a lot of jokes, a lot of double entendres. And the whole episode hinges on the idea of a lot of people not understanding what that means and what was actually on the tape and whether or not that is sexual contact. So in this context, he's acting like his wife at the time is being a big stick in the mud for not celebrating them getting paid to mock the abuse of a black girl. And he's acting like she's being so over the top. She's protesting. She's not going to eat. Oh my God, you're just being a big nad. But then he's in his feelings because she's smiling at Usher and making time with Usher and introduces her then husband as just Carl so Usher won't know that she's married. So you get in your feelings about being disrespected in front of a couple of people, but you think it's okay to disrespect a black girl, a victim of a man on national television, to play her abuse for millions for laughs. And this is why I hate the demographics. He can't even see himself. He can't even see what he did wrong. Everybody is, oh my God, I can't believe she introduced you as Carl. And oh my God, I can't believe your wife at the time didn't want to celebrate your good fortune. But nothing, no gasp of outrage, no cries of dismay for how he disrespected a victim of a known pedo. But this is why I urge you, ladies, 92%ers, not to be taken in by the demographics in this season, because they want to act like they want to be your allies and whatnot when they want to use you for clout the same way they always have. They want to ride your bandwagon and then throw you in the trash the same way they always have. They have never been your allies before. They have always put your body on the front line, because who was receiving all the hits and the licks? Who was doing the hard labor of the civil rights movement? Rosa Parks, Claudette Colvin, Ruby Bridges, Elizabeth Eckford. It's women and girls, old women and young girls they put on the front lines. Or they're doing the intellectual labor and not getting any of the profit. Hello, Ella Baker. Maya Angelou. Did y'all know she was working at the SCLC under Dr. King? Took Bayard Reston's place. A lot of people don't know that. But they're doing the fundraising, they're doing the legwork, they're doing the intellectual labor, they're putting their bodies on the front lines while the men reap the profit. The men are the one with the known names and who get the big contracts. Jesse Jackson made a fortune off of his role in the civil rights movement. He is a millionaire with plenty houses. And meanwhile, in her old age, Rosa Parks was getting robbed by the same demographics whose rights she fought to protect. Was robbed and beaten as a woman in her 80s. Didn't even have a safe neighborhood to live in. And do you think Jesse offered her a stipend or a job? This is the time he had his Rainbow Coalition. He's already run for president. He is famous. He is wealthy. He is making a lot off his appearances on all these news networks and doing speeches and whatnot. And he didn't spit on Rosa. Only for a few years later, when she passed in the 2000s, for them to all gather up and make her funeral into this nationally televised event for them to anoint themselves afresh as the leaders of the civil rights movement after doing nothing when this woman needed their aid. And it was the same thing with Coretta Scott. Her husband passed away. My bad, let me give him his flowers, was assassinated. But when Homegirl was terrified for her children's lives, when his brother was pretty much assassinated shortly thereafter for questioning the U.S. government's role in his passing, what were they doing to protect his wife, his widow and the children? Nothing. These men he fought and marched and all that alongside had, moved on to the next. They were trying to be the next anointed prophet. They were trying to get the money from the movement, and they weren't thinking about his people. Same thing with Malcolm. Although at least in Malcolm's case, he cared about his widow and his children. And he had tried to do right by them. Part of the reason Coretta Scott and others, his children were not being provided for was because he had sunk all the money that he got. When you win the Nobel Prize, you get a lot of money. At the time, it was $64,000. He took all that money, every penny of it, and sunk it back into the SCLC. He didn't give anything, didn't put aside anything for his people, which was ridiculous, in my opinion. And if it weren't for women like Oprah giving a stipend to Coretta, and others who took care of Rosa Parks, these women who were such leaders would have suffered. Don't be a sucker. They say they want to be your allies. They want to use you again in 2025 and pay themselves the profit. So don't fall for it. And this is how it starts. They try to convince you that when they disrespect you, it's just a joke. It's just a little hee kiki. But men, oh my God, they tell you how men need respect to live. And if you disrespect a man, you're unaliving him and all this other nonsense. But disrespect against you for the worst possible thing and disrespect amongst the most vulnerable populations, girls, little children. R. Kelly abused a child, a preteen, a little girl. They want to convince you that's no big deal. They want to normalize this. And this was back in the early 2000s. I forget when Boondocks came out, but I was still in high school. 04, 05. Grown men going out of their way to denigrate a child for being a victim and make you think that a child being abused by an adult man is nothing but a laughing matter. She didn't get justice in the courts. They made fun of that. Didn't get justice from the people. And now this victim has to look on TV and see her abuse being mocked. And they convince you that's just a joke, that's just a kiki. But it doesn't start there. It started in the 70s, 80s, 90s when Black men finally started having their own voice in media. And the first thing they used it to do was to mock you. I think about Fred Sanford and Aunt Esther. I think about George Jefferson and Florence, the maid. Denigrating these women's looks and their behavior and their, femininity. And it carried on to the present day, kept on with Amen and then Martin and the Wayans brothers and In Living Color, then hip hop and Black movies. And now they have made you an international joke. Are these your allies? Is this your king? Stop the madness. They're starting to feel the heat, but I always tell you all, cutting people off is not a timeout. It's not for them to learn the error of their ways. It's not for them to do better in the future. It's to protect you from their harmful actions. And it's so they don't have the proximity to hurt you anymore. You cut them off, cut off the demographics and don't go back. Never allow them around you again because they're really trying to climb on your bandwagon right now. And I see too many Black women wanting to be inclusive. 92% and 78%. Those two numbers, the disparity is a shame before God. And the only reason 78% of them voted the right way was self-interest. But they were openly vocal against someone who was eminently qualified just because they thought they weren't going to benefit. They knew she wasn't a mammy. They knew she wasn't gonna praise them undeservedly and give them any sort of unfair advantage like other black women politicians have done before her. So they were in their feelings. Kamala is also a preference, so they wanted to punish her for marrying out rather than waiting to be done wrong by one of them. But it just goes back to how they see a black woman's victory as somehow taking something away from them, because they really want you subjugated. They want you underneath their feet. And they've tried to convince you that oppression at their hands is some kind of boon for you. That's somehow a win for racial unity, when a win for you to them is a loss. They would literally rather be oppressed by the WM than to put you in any kind of power. They'd rather the whole world go to hell and burn up than to see you in a responsible position if they can't benefit. Or I should say over benefit, because they were going to benefit from Kamala being in office, but they weren't going to receive some outsized reparation from it. They weren't going to get an unfair advantage out of it, and they just could not tolerate that. So they said, we would rather suffer so that hopefully you'll be on a lower level, that you'll be on our level or below, rather than us being elevated if you're going to be in a superior position. They're sick. But it reminds me of the next bit of our roundup, and let this be a reminder that all men are just looking for the advantage of being in a relationship with you. Okay, they only want it if it's somehow going to benefit them in an outsized way. So stop being a sucker and play to win.
All right, when's the last time you got your heart broken?
Last night. I had a girl I thought I was dating for, we had been on about like 8 or 9 dates. I hadn't spoken to her in about 2 weeks. As, I told her I was busy with work, and she showed up at the bar with our mutual friend group with a man who was they were on their 3rd date.
This is a prime example of how what's understood doesn't have to be explained, and why you have to have such strong boundaries in dating. See, ex-wives don't communicate on purpose to leave the maximum amount of room for misinterpretation. Now, if it had been the other way around, he had been dating this girl for whatever amount of time, and she didn't contact him at all for weeks at a time, he would assume she had ghosted him and moved on. But men expect you to keep hanging on. I once knew a girl who said her boyfriend wouldn't speak to her for months. But if she wanted to do anything or go out with someone else, he would call it cheating. Men do things like this to keep you on the hook while they're not adhering to the same standard. They want to put a pin in you, use you like a bookmark, and come back when they get ready. And that's why they insist communication favor their needs. For example, you're not the girlfriend until they've had a discussion, but they want you to behave like one. He wanted to say, "Oh, I'm busy," like those were magical words that absolved him from any responsibility to communicate. But notice how he wasn't too busy to go out to the bar with his friends. That sounds kind of like a date. That's what you would be doing with someone you were going out with. Going out and having a meal, having some conversation. And when she did the same thing with another man because you were too busy, all of a sudden you were in your feelings. Back to the communication bit, men want you to assume the position of a girlfriend while not giving you that position, so they don't have any responsibilities to you, but you have all these responsibilities to them. He was upset she was going out with someone else. But notice in these 8 or 9 dates that they went on, he was very careful not to discuss exclusivity. See, he wants to give himself the freedom of the fields. He wants to give himself the freedom to wriggle out of commitment while holding her to a different standard. Because he didn't say she cheated on me. I said we were together. I asked her to be my girlfriend. We're supposed to be exclusive. You want to have the ability to put her down and pick her up at will, and you're mad she didn't fall for it. Let this one be your blueprint in 2025. If you insist on dating ex-wives, you need to make sure the arrangement favors you. They're leaving things loosey-goosey. Let that be a loose knot you walk through and get what you want. Notice how this girl didn't sit at home crying her eyes out or saying, "Why didn't he call me? Or maybe I should be more convenient, more available. He says he's busy at work. Should I go to his house and surprise him with a dinner? Should I go to his job and, give him a little something?" She said, "Behavior is communication. I see from his actions he's not that interested in me. Let me go find somebody else who is." Because in the same time period, another girl would have been crying her eyes out. This woman's already been on 3 dates with someone new. And that's just the guy we know about. She probably has some other guys on the string. So make sure you always have a roster. Do not assume the position of a girlfriend until you are given that position. And honestly, I wouldn't even take the girlfriend title because it's for suckers. Dating one man exclusively is a huge detriment for you and a huge benefit for him. If you're going to date someone, it needs to serve you. Being a girlfriend, honestly, is a fool's errand. It gives you a hyper-inflated sense of responsibility for this man, and it gives you the erroneous assumption that your relationship is headed somewhere. Oh, he asked me to be his girlfriend. What benefits does that come with? You often end up assuming way more responsibility for the relationship. You think, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with me cooking, me cleaning, us moving in together because he asked me to be his girlfriend. That's dumb. The only title I would settle for outside of wife would be fiance, because that comes with something. But even that has a shelf life. I would never be engaged longer than a year. And there would have to be active wedding planning going on the whole time. Back to this girlfriend lark, all that really means is you can't date other men. Well, I assure you, he's still looking around for the love of his life. It is foolish. I would never, ever do it. Especially in your 30s and beyond, if you desire to get married, I would never be a girlfriend. If he asks, say, okay, what does that mean to you? Because if it's just exclusive dating, we're already, according to you, doing exclusive dating. If you're saying you want to change the title, I'm assuming you're changing what comes with the relationship. You're saying our futures are aligned. We're actually heading somewhere. Our destinies are intertwined here. And if that's what you're saying, it sounds like you want to get married. Is this a proposal? Because if not, why should I upgrade your status? A lot of men give out the girlfriend title because he knows there's a lot of things he's never going to get without it. Some women won't have intimacy without the girlfriend title. Some women won't do certain kinds of labor without the girlfriend title. But what it is for 90% of men is an excuse to be lazy. Now he can Netflix and chill because you're the girlfriend. Oh, you weren't open to home dates before because you guys were just dating. But now he can chill on your couch. He can practically move into your home, or really move into your home, because you're his girlfriend. Who's getting served? Not you. Wake up. If you're single, according to the government, and that's everybody who's not married, you need to move like you're single. That's it. Like and follow for more.